I feel like everyone says we're in the 1920s again. Like we're experiencing all of the economic instability and fascism of that time. But I just recently watched this documentary on YouTube, which is a fantastic documentary called The Gilded Age. And now I think we're not in the 1920s. We're in the Gilded Age, which is the period between like 1870 to 1900. That period of time is when the biggest names in capitalism sprung up that we still recognize. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, JP Morgan. Capitalism was so unfettered during that time, and there were no regulations. There was no corporate income tax. People's lives were terrible. A lecturer I often watch made the point, you'll never see movies made about the common people's lives during the period of the late 1800s. Because the life expectancy was so low, and you would go to your factory job and work next to your child, and you'd hope that one of you didn't get your arm ripped off that day. There were no consumer protections, there was no food safety, people were getting poisoned by milk, and there were these really bloody, violent labor struggles between the early 1900s and like the 1910s to the 1920s. This is when labor unions were forming. The Gilded Age leads up to the point where there is going to be a new world order. We are going from the English Empire being the world power to this open question. Who's going to be the new world power? And it looked like it could be Germany or it could be the US. But World War I absolutely wiped out the German economy, and the US helped fund a lot of it. And so because of the US's funding of World War I, and a lot of other nations being in debt, it sets up the US to become a world power eventually after World War II. So if I'm right that we're actually in the Gilded Age right now, and there was a Great Depression in the Gilded Age in 1893, it's just the Great Depression of the 1920s blew it out of the water and nobody remembers it. If we're in the Gilded Age, we are in store for a lot of years of labor struggle. We may or may not see a war over the change of the new world power. We may see climate catastrophes piling onto depressions, a la the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. But what's fascinating to me is we are not coming from a period of history where there are no regulations. We're coming from a period of history where all the regulations were taken away because there was nobody left from those generations to tell us why we put them in place in the first place. There's a really good book called The Jungle that people have urged me to read, and I can't read it because it's not nonfiction, but I'm going to keep trying. And it's about how our food safety system sprang up from illness, foodborne illness. We got so good at keeping ourselves safe and keeping ourselves well and solving so many chronic diseases that people used to get that we came back around and forgot that we needed those cures in the first place, which is fascinating. And in the same way, we have forgotten that we need bank regulations. We have forgotten that we need labor unions. But I very much see the tide turning, and here's why. Ronald Reagan was the one who said, send manufacturing to China, it will be cheaper. And you're seeing a reversal of that sentiment. And with the reversal of that way of thinking comes the reversal of every way that that economic faction thought, which is that you could just deregulate everything and that the market would find the best way. I think it's fascinating how, as our technology changes, we have to change our economic theories. One of the things that changed in the 1920s after the Great Depression happened was people stood back. Democrats and Republicans deeply believe in capitalism. And people were going, whoa, maybe capitalism doesn't work. And then the economist Keynes brings a theory forward that says, no, capitalism works. You just have to have a monetary policy. You have to have a regulating force that controls the money supply and influences inflation in order to keep capitalism working. And we're seeing the same breakdown when it comes to technology and AI. It's given humans superpowers to compile data and use it against the populace in a way that previously wasn't possible. And so our economics is breaking down because of it. We're having trouble employing people. And so we're going to have to come up with a new economic theory to understand this. And equally, we will need new consumer protections, new ways to regulate these things. We probably need a data privacy bill of rights. It was not previously possible through the technology to co-opt power in this way. And so everything has to change around it. But mark my words, there is going to be a period of learning where people get burned by the regulations that we don't have and by the moderating forces that we need to have respect for public health, for equality of power and wealth. And it's going to be an interesting ride.